It was Manchester City 0, Tottenham 4. There is Ian, who's a City fan, incidentally. Before I leave Manchester City, Jim White and the giddy-ometer this morning. Prior to Saturday, remember, City were unbeaten in 52 games and over 2 years. Had to lose some time. Well played, Tottenham, says Ian, the City fan of 50 years. 50. But yeah, Ian, here's the thing. There's a slight lurch towards the giddy-ometer because that's 5 in the trot. You've lost. And you're Manchester City. Pep Guardiola's Manchester City. Anyway, enough. Tottenham. Wow. But what are you? Have Tottenham become the most ridiculous team in the Premier League? Lose at home to Ipswich one week, then go and batter the champions in their own backyard the next. This was Ange.
I've never seen a lot of the players have lost belief in what we're doing. It's very easy to, because obviously there's a lot of noise when things don't go well. But they've just... today was about sort of doubling down on our football principles, and we did that. And it is significant because obviously they've got an unbelievable record here at home. So I don't think it's something that, you can be just sort of blasé about. It is significant, but I think it's significant for the whole group that, we can sort of... We've reached these standards before. It's about now not dropping as we have in certain games.
Mr. Simon Jordan, as you clean your bifocals, what are Tottenham?
They were very good sides. But the fact they lose to Palace and they were dreadful in that game, they get beat by Ipswich and they draw with Leicester, tells you that they're a side not ready to assume the upper echelons of something meaningful. They've got a chance in the League Cup. They've got a chance in the Europa League, which I think the other two tournaments they can do really well in. And it's up to them. And hopefully he'll field a team against Man United in the EFL Cup befitting of a team trying to win something. But in the Premier League, I still think they're a way off because of these results. It does tell you about the competitivity of the league, as I said earlier on. It does give you a warm feel that the teams at the bottom of the Premier League make it competitive, which is what separates us from our European counterparts in the domestic leagues. But it also tells you something about Tottenham, because Tottenham have got the ability to go on and put most teams into very difficult positions. And yet the following week, they'll go and lose to somebody that you didn't expect to. That's a mentality. That's an approach. It stems from the manager. It stems from Ange Postecoglou. He has to take responsibility. When Ipswich rock up to White Hart, well, it's not White Hart Lane, is it? Tottenham Stadium now.
Yeah.
Or they turn up at Palace. He has to have those players ready and prepared to overcome lesser opposition than perhaps they quite feel that they need to. And then if they're not doing it at half-time, he has to have the ability to change it, which he hasn't really done. They were better in the second half against Ipswich, but the game was already 2-0. They were already 2-0 down and they were chasing it. So I think it's a great result. I think they caught City at exactly the right time. They've beaten City before. They've done it to City before, so it isn't something that happened. They've done it early on this season to City. They've done it in previous incarnations. It's interesting that Tottenham fans say, "Ooh, easy, easy." Well, when you lose a game, it's not easy, is it? It's, all of a sudden it's a disaster. When you win a game, you should be able to delight in it. It's a great result. It's confidence building, and he needs to reinforce that when they're playing against the perceived lesser opposition, because we can all raise our games.
Well, they can Fulham next at home.
Well, that's a good test of a game. Obviously, they've just got beaten by Wolves 4-1, but Fulham are a good side.
Yeah.
Silva's doing a good job. Tottenham will think that's a game they can win. Let's see how they turn up to that one.
What did we see, Martin, on Saturday? I mean, did we see what Tottenham can do, or are we seeing that City are folding like a deck of cards?
If you remember, I was defending Spurs a number of weeks ago, saying that they're not that far away, when we had a major argument here of talking about the strengths of Spurs. I do not feel that they are that far away. It's about balance. We talked about balance. This very
far away from what?
From winning a trophy. The manager's put it out there. I win trophies in my second season. I think he's actually responding very well to the pressure that he came under. That's an incredible result. He doesn't want to get carried away because he doesn't want too many pats on the back. But if you look at what they did, I mean, two best centre-halves at the club weren't available. Van der Ven and Romero weren't available. Davis was playing centre-half with Dragerson.
And was brilliant.
The two full-backs, by the way, I love the way that they go into midfield, but you wonder sometimes, don't you, about the balance when it doesn't work. There's nobody crossing the ball. Kulusevski now seems to be really aggressive. Son has been managed well with Brennan Johnson coming off and on the pitch. Solanke settling in nicely. I don't think they're that far away. The manager just wants to keep a lid on it because he wants the players to look, hey, the next one. You
didn't fancy Kulusevski at one point. I told you. I clapped eyes on him at Parma against Roma. He was outstanding.
Not as a winger. Not as a wide man, no.
He can play in midfield as well, and he's done that this season.
Where he's playing at this moment in time, I think absolutely the performance he put in against Man City on the weekend and in recent weeks.
But Maddison's finishing, though, the quality of that. coming in, and the bravery to play him as well, Jim, because then you're worried about the balance in midfield. Basuma coming in, I think is a...
But the argument could be made about Tottenham Hotspur. Martin's argument is a salient one, but we could have said for many, many seasons, it's not beyond the reach of Tottenham to win a cup.
They've got to find consistency.
It's not beyond the reach of Tottenham to win a cup. They could have won a cup last year. They could have been more, they could have put a more competitive side out against Fulham in the quarterfinals of the EFL Cup last year. They've gotten into the Europa League. They've been to a Champions League final. They've been to FA Cup semi-finals. Really what we're talking about is the glass ceiling being the Premier League. Do we see Tottenham as competitors in the Premier League to be pushing hard in a strange Premier League season? You're seeing Man City decline. You're seeing the rise of Chelsea again against the backdrop of people thinking that wasn't going to happen. You've now got Chelsea third in the league. But
when they set
becoming
about
competitive,
teams, they take them to the sword, don't they, Spurs?
Yeah.
I mean, they've got Manchester United in the EFL Cup.
Indeed.
I mean, that is one where if the messaging isn't right from the new Manchester United manager, he's talked about messaging and the players looking at each other, they don't really understand what they're doing. If they don't get that right by then, they're going to be really worked in that one. That could be
Spurs fans getting in touch, Martin, in big numbers. Darren's a Tottenham fan. It's simple. We're JEKYLL and HYDE. There's Simon, a Tottenham fan. I'm a long-suffering Tottenham fan. Beating City 4-0, yeah, amazing. Enjoyed it thoroughly. But here's the thing. Tottenham will probably lose to Fulham at home in the next one. Until Tottenham go 3-4 winning in a row, no one's going to get excited. Do you know what? Simon, you've got a point there.
They did last year. They started the season quite quickly, and they did go 3-4 in a row. And ultimately, they fell away at the back end of the season. I think Tottenham are a good side with good players. But I think a lot of these players that Tottenham sign, I look at it and say they've gotten better. He's getting the best of them. I don't look at Brennan Johnson, with due respect to the fact he's scoring a few goals. I don't look at Timo Werner, and I don't look at Kulusevski, even though he's playing very well, as teams that would, any of those players that would get into the top sides in the Premier League that have won leagues and are competing to win the leagues. So Tottenham are making the best of the available funds that Daniel gives them and making the best of the management that they've got. But they have to turn up in games like Crystal Palace and Ipswich, because it's no good beating Manchester City 4-0. And then, like the fan says, not turning up against Fulham or not turning up against a side that on paper you would perceive Tottenham. Yeah. That's the bridge that Ange Postecoglou has to cross. And
well, the next three games, there's one away, and that's at Bournemouth, and that's now a difficult away game, isn't it? And that's the one maybe you might think they've got Chelsea also at home. Fulham and Chelsea the next two home games, and then they've got Bournemouth away. Let's see, but I think that will be a massive tonic for them. To do that to City and not build upon that would be a disaster for them for the rest of the season.
Is consistency down to mentality though, Martin?
Well, it is, and the manager talked about it, the defeat against Ipswich. That was on me. They weren't motivated enough. They were too sloppy. They were too casual in the opening exchanges, and I'll take that, but it won't happen again. Let's see.
I mean, if ever... there can be no team out there that fancy playing Tottenham at the moment, Simon. You never know what they might do to you.
No, true. But there's been plenty of examples this season where they've flattered to deceive.
Yeah.
I mean, Tottenham are a good side. They're sixth in the league. And so they are where they deserve to be at this moment in time. They haven't been better than sixth. They are where they deserve to be. They're in individual games. I'm an admirer of people like Solanke that have gone in there and done a good job. I'm an admirer of Postecoglou. I like them as a defensive unit. I like the two centre-backs. I like Romero. He can be a little bit, indisciplined at times. But I think he's a strong centre-half. I like Mickey van der Ven. I think they're good players. I like the two full-backs. But we will see when they come up against teams like Newcastle. I mean, they've already done Villa, which was a great result. And that was just when Villa seemed to be coming off the boil a little bit. And they smashed Villa. Yeah. But we'll see. I mean, I want him to be successful. But I certainly think there's a cup in them. I think it would be poor if they don't make a really big impression in the Europa League and the League Cup.
Sure.
Man United are no great shakes. They've got a great opportunity to win this EFL Cup. City out of it.
Must have been some trip back for the Tottenham fans though. Were you one of the ones who was there? You can always say you were there at the Etihad the day that your Tottenham went there and beat City 4-0. You're listening to Jim White, Simon Jordan, Martin Keown on talkSPORT with Selco Builders Warehouse. It's where the trade go. Back in the Times this morning, Amarim, prepare to suffer. That's quite a message from the new Manchester United manager, is it not? And what about pundits like Martin Keown, Roy Keane? Are they fair game?
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.